Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. We're going to get started on the next section, section 4, which is identity and access management. In this section, we're going to talk about managing users, groups, and roles. And our first lesson is an overview of identity and access management. Our topics in this lesson are going to include an overview of IAM Best Practices, multi-factor authentication, best practices for IAM users and groups, and IAM password policies. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what is IAM? IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. It's the service within AWS that you use to manage user accounts and groups. In addition to managing users and groups, some additional things you can do with IAM include managing access policies that you apply to your users and groups, roles, user credentials, password policies, multi-factor authentication, and API keys for programmatic access, meaning the command line interface or CLI. And we're going to talk about these as we go through this lesson. So when you first create your AWS account, there is a default account that's created called the root user account. That account has full rights to everything within your AWS account. It has the ability to manage users, access billing information. Essentially anything that can be done in your AWS account can be done by the root user account. So when you create your AWS account, the root user account gets full access to anything and everything within your AWS account. Any new or additional user accounts you create are created with no access to any of the AWS resources. The only rights that account gets is the ability to log in. So you then have to assign any access rights that you want that user account to have. This is because AWS operates on something called the principle of least privilege, meaning that we only grant users access permissions to the minimal amount of resources that they need to get their job done. As an example, if someone needs to manage EC2 instances, which are our virtual servers, but they don't need to do anything else or manage any other services, we would not grant them access to, say, identity and access management, where they could potentially modify someone's user account. By assigning the least possible amount of access permissions, we're creating the most possible secure environment for our AWS account. So in order for a user to have access to an AWS service, you must assign permissions to that user account. And assigning those permissions is done using IAM. So let's go ahead and take a further look at IAM. So there's something called best practices. Best practices are guidelines that recommend settings, configuration, and architecture for maintaining the highest level possible of security, accessibility, and efficiency. So basically, a best practice is guidelines that tell you, here's the recommended configuration for your environment to achieve a particular architecture or configuration that is secure, that is efficient as possible, but still gives you the most use of the service to accomplish your goals. Now, when you create a new AWS account, your root account has several best practices that should be applied to that account. So let's go ahead and jump into IAM. So I'm going to go here and search for IAM. You're taken to the IAM Dashboard. Now, there are a few things on this dashboard. One, there's a customized link here. And when you create additional IAM user accounts, you provide them with this link to log into the AWS console. This link, the first part of it, is the account number that's associated with your account. IAM users are unique only to your organization. So you have to have a customized login link that directs them to your specific account. And I'll show you a little bit later on what that customized login page looks like. Below that, you have IAM resources. So mine may look different from yours because this is my existing AWS account. So you'll notice that there are actually some differences between what you see in my account and what you might see in your own personal account. So below security status, you'll notice that there are a couple of different things here. One is delete your root access keys. So you may notice that this one already has a green check mark. If for some reason yours doesn't, if you were to click this drop-down link, there's a link here that will take you to the page where you can manage your root access keys and delete them. Again, it's best that you use an IAM user account and not your root account to log in and manage services. So as a result, you should not have root access keys. If you do, you can delete them by using this link. And then below that, notice that the next step is to enable multi-factor authentication, or MFA. We're going to talk more about MFA as we go through this lesson. Then we have the fact that we should create individual IAM user accounts for our users for that day-to-day use of AWS. After we have user accounts, then we assign those users to groups to assign permissions. And then finally, our IAM password policy. So we're going to go through these kind of step by step, but that's an overview of what we're going to talk about as we continue to go through this lesson. So we're going to go ahead and pause right here because this topic is somewhat long. And in the next video, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our overview of identity and access management. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.